There's a lot. It's a wide swath of issues that have popped up. First thing is a lack of knowledge of what they need to be looking for and what is there and how often they should revisit it. So for example, you have a lot of people that bought during the downturn, got the appraisal. They said it was X amount of money. They insured it for that. And then 4 or 5 years later, as the market reestablished itself, values went up, and it was never addressed. Some agents or insurance carriers automatically renewing and not paying attention to it because it's easier to do it that way, as well as the homeowners not being as diligent as they should be. How often should we update the values is the number one thing. What indicators should we see just in the economy and the basic overall landscape of real estate? Costs tend to come down because there's availability. If you're doing like a single family home, right, just one home rebuilding, you can find people. If there's not a lot of building going on, that means there's not a lot of demand, which means there's not a lot of supply, and there's not a lot of people that are building at the time, which means they can be picky and therefore charge more in what they're doing. So it's those kind of things, as well as asking what the carrier standards are. You know, what is the standard with ALE? Additional living expenses, right? So there's asking, is it a dollar cap? Is it a time period? Is it a combination of both? How do those interact with each other? What is the standard by which they go? I think a lot of people didn't realize that a lot of this stuff is depreciated, that they don't have any weight on sentimental value. Another question you should really be asking is, what should be scheduled? What things do we really need to make sure we have, that you know what it is, what it consists of, and what the value is, so that there's no question. You don't need to schedule an oven, but if you have a ring or a piece of art or a possession of some kind that has a large value attributed to it because it's rare or what it's made out of. The number one thing is you get what you pay for. Just because something's cheap doesn't mean it's good. And increasing those limits may cost a little bit, but $20, $30 total on the policy is much more acceptable than 20 or 30,000 when the actual loss happens. There's two kinds of agents. There's what we call direct writers. Direct writers are something like a Farmers or a AAA or a USAA, where it's one agent who writes with one company direct, and if they have to go to another one, they have to pay fees and everything because it's not their own. And then you have brokers, which are somebody that works for a company, like Smith & Smith Insurance, where they have access to multiple carriers. Our job as an insurance agent is to be somebody that is there for you at your worst period in time. We plan for the worst possible scenario. It's kind of like a Chicken Little thing. Well, if this happens or this happens, you don't want somebody that dances around and like, oh yeah, typically, yeah, that's fine. You want them to justify why that's fine. What you should be receiving is the best value, not the best price. So it may be a little bit more expensive than the next one, but a good agent will say, yes, this is 10% more expensive, but here's why and why you should do it. That's what you should be looking for. A consumer should come back every year. Your agent should be looked at like your accountant or your banker, ideally, to ask questions about their policy and basically get a full rundown of where the landscape lies in terms of insurance, because it's constantly changing now. After a disaster, your agents should be acting as your advocate. They know the language. They're licensed. They maintain their education to maintain their license. It shouldn't be incumbent upon the consumer to know everything about insurance. That's not fair. One of the things to ask is, how did this carrier respond in the fire, so that you don't lose your livelihood and go broke. You need somebody when it comes to your house that knows what they're doing and is professional and has been through this before and understands the process, because that's how you're going to get back into your house.